Hello guys, my name is Erik Stygu and today I want to show you how I made this illustration of three dumb demons screaming on top of each other and doing stuff in the forest. So I guess enjoy. But before I show you any type of illustration process or anything, I would like to discuss with you a thing that you, in my opinion, should follow, especially if you're a beginner, so it will make your life a whole lot easier in terms of like being an illustration. The first thing you should start with is an idea. If you want to illustrate something, have an idea what it will be. If you want to sketch it, if you want to write it, if you want to make a photo or a sculpture for it, whatever. Idea is like the key thing to have if you want to make an illustration. Later, the second important thing are the sketches. And in my opinion, sketches are like the fundamentals of pretty much everything you will do. Like, it allows you to explore your idea, to show if it works, if it does not work. It's like the construction site for your whole illustration. You can see if it works, if it does not work, what works, what's not. Sketches are like extremely important. Just use them. Especially if you are like a beginner, you need to make a lot of them just to get a grip of how to draw, how to sketch or anything. References are like also, in my opinion, really key thing if you are a beginner, because if you're just starting, I guess your visual library is not really well developed, so you might not know how some things look like. So just take some photos, base your drawing on them, just study real life, and later you can like reinvent the things. You can make them pretty much look nicer or more cool or whatever. Same for the lighting and the colors. Just take references. Sometimes you can just find a really great photo and the photo will pretty much have like the perfect light setup or the value setup. So just take these photos, study them, try to implement them in your painting. It will be way easier. Same for colors. If you find a photo with really cool colors, maybe it will inspire you to apply them into your painting. 3D, in my opinion, is extremely like helpful thing, especially if you're a beginner, because sometimes you might simply not know how geometry behaves in perspective, and using a 3D can greatly help you with it, like can solve a lot of problems for you. Of course, you need to understand it, but it will be a great help. Photos to help throughout the illustration, in this case, are pretty much references. Just use the photos. Do not let them guide the illustration. They are only here to help you. And if you prepare pretty much everything, you can just start doing the illustration. You will be really prepared to it. You will have like all the needed tools for you to make a good illustration, and finishing the thing will be like extremely easier. Like, you will just go through all the steps like logically, just from A to B to C all the way out to the Z. It will be just simply easier. You will prepare yourself to going there, and you can go there like this. And in my case, in my opinion, it makes a lot of sense to follow every single step, especially if you're a beginner. If you're a beginner and if you will just try to paint something and to finish it as quickly as possible and to make it epic, it will look ugly, exactly like this leg look ugly. It won't look nice, and there's a huge chance you will like break somewhere in the middle and the whole illustration will collapse and you will lose a lot of morale, or yeah, it will just go badly. And if you do this type of split, there's a huge chance you will like stretch out too much your groin and it will hurt you. So just don't avoid all the steps needed. Take every single step that is possible. And I would like to show you how this process looks like based on the things that I have done for all the demons that I was uploading recently. The first thing are the sketches. They are extremely rough, and for the 10 illustrations I did roughly around 36 or 38 sketches, something like this. It's plenty. Like, you can pretty much see how they look like, how they will present on a finished piece, but they are extremely rough. They are just like a note of the idea. I wanted just to make a lot of them. After client chose some sketches, I did some different value like versions, so I can present the sketch in a little bit more refined stage, so we can see a little bit better how the illustration will present itself, how it will look like, and what will be the vibe for the whole illustration. Also, this type of things, in my opinion, are extremely fun to do and will greatly force you to expand your knowledge of how the light works and just to experiment with things. Next things, after choosing like the setup, the light setup, I did some color compositions, so you can see a thumbnail of how the final illustration could look like. And in my opinion, it's like a really logical way to approach any type of illustration. Like, it allows me to make every single decision based like on something, instead of just going randomly and wishing something good will come out of it. So after doing everything, I also prepared for myself a really simple 3D model in 3D Code, as I did for every single daemon that I done previously, that I uploaded previously, and use this 3D model to help myself with doing this illustration. Like, I could probably draw something like this without any type of help, without any type of illustration like underneath it, but it will be way harder in my opinion. If I could use 3D to make something easier, to speed up the whole process, or just to allow me to understand the whole scene a little bit better, it will be worth it. Like, making this 3D model took me around, I don't know, 20 minutes or something like this. And it also allows me to experiment a lot with really subtle things, like maybe to show them a little bit from below, or maybe to show them a little bit from the top, or just to like move them slightly so I can experiment a little bit more with the composition. So it's also cool, fine and dandy. It will make the whole thing way easier. And also because like I do all these steps previously, like because I do all this sketching, all this color composition, all these light setups and everything, I give myself a little bit more time to think about the whole illustration. So when I go to paint something, like these guys in this case, I have a pretty good idea like how it will look like. Like, I had time to imagine how the illustration should look like. So when I start doing it, it will simply just go easier. Like, I could process it in my mind how I wanted to make it look. And for the references, if you are short of references, just take your phone, take your own photos and reference yourself. Like, you don't need a reference for the demon face, like exactly a demon face. Just take your face, do a weird face with it, just do a weird expression and just use it. Yeah, in this project, like pretty much every single demon that I drew has something from me inside of them. Like, mostly it's hands and some facial features, but I was like photographing myself in different poses just to help me understand a little bit better what I will have to paint, or what I will have to draw, or pretty much whatever. Like, of course, I could study all these anatomy things and everything. There are dogs barking outside. I have no idea if you can hear them. I could study all of these things and to draw it like from the scratch perfectly without using any type of references, but it will be extremely harder, and the final result might not be this nice that it will be a little bit more ugly if I will try to make it everything from scratch. If I can use photos, if I can use references, I will use them to my advantage, because yeah, just because it will look nicer in the end. And after like taking a lot of references, I just pasted them into the Photoshop and used them constantly. I made a small group folder inside of the Photoshop and was displaying them whenever they were needed. And a really cool thing about this illustration is I guess when I was doing it, it was after watching a tutorial done by Brad Rigney, Cryptcrawler, if you know him under his nickname, about making a cave troll or something like this, a bog troll, witch troll, something like this. And in my opinion, it was one of the best tutorials I have ever bought and I have ever seen in terms of quality of the painting and in terms of the tips that you can find in them. So I will link this tutorial in my description down below, because I strongly believe every single artist out there should see this tutorial, should listen to Brad Rigney, because he has like a lot of amazing things to say. And also it forced me to change my process of painting a little bit, because I wanted to emulate how he works a little bit more. So I tried way more to build like a really like 3D forms in this one, and to play a little bit more with the light and with the textures, especially with the textures, because usually I tend to paint way more at the beginning and add textures later. In this case, I try to add a lot of more textures early on, just to have some textures earlier, like just to experiment. And same as you can see, I still use a lot of references of myself holding some barbells and everything. So yeah, the whole illustration looks a little bit nicer. And for the idea for the whole illustration, in this one I wanted to portray some like stupid demons. They are like the lowest type of demon you can imagine in this project. Like, they are extremely dumb and they are fragile and they are noisy and stupid and pretty much everything. And they were kind of inspired by the fallen ones from the Diablo series. So there's just, if you kill one, they pretty much all escape because they are terrified. So it was my idea for making these guys. So I wanted them to not be really too buffy. Pretty much I wanted them to have like my body type, because it's like you can see some muscles in there, like there is something, but not that much. And if anybody will kill any of my friends near me, I guess I will make a really fast escape and I will run for my life. So it fits to the whole idea of this illustration. If I will be a demon, I'll probably be like one of these guys. So yeah, but at least I can use myself for the illustration a little bit better. Like, I can understand them, so I can paint them a little bit nicer. And in this case, what was also really interesting and really fun to work with was the light setup, because I really like to have some sharp shadows and sharp edges on the illustration. And in this case, I decided to go with a really like soft, overcast like shadows and lights. So pretty much they are not that much of a sharp shapes made out of shadows. So it was a little bit more tricky to paint because I'm not used to this type of things. But once again, if something is hard for me and if I will see some sort of a challenge in an illustration or a problem that I will need to solve, in my opinion, it's a better thing to try to tackle this type of an illustration, because this way you will go out of your comfort zone and you pretty much can improve as an artist. So it will be harder, but if you manage to do it, in the end it will be way more rewarding, instead of like making an illustration where you will have like zero problems at all. So in this case, I also took some photos from the web and decided to use photos for the background, because I could paint all of these trees, but I strongly believe with things like trees, I like to have this like a natural randomness. Like, I don't think I should design a tree for my illustration. I kind of wanted to give this randomness to the whole piece. So I guess like all these organic forms that are happening in the background really nicely fit to the whole theme of these demons. Like, they are really organic and entangled with each other. And I kind of felt like the photos will be way better way to approach this, instead of like just painting those trees. Of course, I could paint those trees, but I wanted to spend most of my energy for this illustration on painting the demons themselves, instead of like spending 10 hours trying to paint the trees nicely in the background. And also one of the things that I think using photos is nice, because it allows you to like introduce to the painting this higher quality of details. Even if they are in the background, you still will be able to see these photo textures, and they will greatly like force you to push the rendering even further. So the whole piece will look way better, in my opinion. Like, they give a good benchmark for the details that you should have in your painting if you are using the photos in your illustration. Also, for the background, I wanted to introduce some like greens to the piece, so it won't be like extremely monochromatic. But in the end, I covered all the greens with the fog, but I think it went well. So if you just want to, like, if you find a photo with a really cool light setup and color setups, as I said in the beginning, just use the photo, take the colors, color pick them, and the whole illustration you will make probably will look way better, because you will have like a really nice real life reference. So I guess, yeah, so I guess it's like really important to be able to also use the photos. And for the photos, especially if you're a beginner, just remember the photos should help you and should not be like a thing that you really overuse. So photos should help your painting and should push it a little bit further, but photos should not dictate what you are doing in the painting. So for example, in this case, in the background, I placed those trees because I like them. I think they look cool, but the whole illustration is not dictated by the background in this case. Like, I had the idea for the trees to be in the background. It just happened I found the perfect photo for it. And if you will make any type of an illustration and you will feel like the photo dictates you how the illustration should go, I kind of think you failed somewhere with like developing the whole illustration. Like, always try to use the photo as a help, not like a solution, in my opinion. Of course, like, you can disagree with it, so we can agree to disagree, but it's just my opinion. And after like covering the greens on the ground, I decided to introduce a little bit more colors to the demons themselves. So there are a lot of different hues on their skin going on. So instead of them being like just blankly blue, I kind of wanted to introduce some like oranges, pinks, grays, greens and everything. So the whole skin will look a little bit more natural, because even as a humans, our skin has a lot of different shades. Like, our hands are shaded a little bit differently than, for example, our fingers from the bottom, or as our armpits or forearms. Like, pretty much we are really colorful, and I wanted to push this idea even further in the demons, so there are like really visible patches of colors of them. So for example, areas around the eyes or the mouth or the forearms will have a little different colors. Also for the backs, because even if you will like look at some human backs, there are a lot of different subtle things going on. And since it's a fantasy illustration, it's nothing wrong to just push the naturally occurring things a little bit further, so it will look nicer. And at this stage, we decided with the art director that all of the demons should have like this flamey eyes and everything. So I just took some photos from from textures.com and just placed them on top of it, and also used some like different skin textures to push the detail a little bit further with the demons, and added some rim lights because I thought the rim light will look kind of cool in this light setup, and also will allow me to separate the monsters a little bit more from the background. And also every single demon that I have painted for the project has a lot of rim lights on them, so it will make no sense for one illustration to be different. I wanted them to have a little bit more of a rim light. And in this case also I was like brightening everything way more, because I really tend to make my illustrations way too dark. So I just took some like different blending modes, for example like overlay or pretty much anything, and try to brighten everything so it will look a little bit nicer. And in the foreground I decided to add some branches and everything, so it will increase the feeling of the depth in the piece. So the main focus is sharp on the demons, and the things in the foreground and in the background are like blurred, so the feeling of depth in the whole piece is nicer. It looks more interesting. Also, I think if you are making any type of illustration, you should have at least 3 planes. So foreground, midground and background should all be present. It will make the illustration look a little bit cooler. And in here also I'm adding some like custom things, so some scars, some rings to them, some necklaces and everything. So the demons will have a little bit more personality to them. And after looking, because I have done this illustration almost a year ago, after looking at this thing now, I kind of feel I could push this idea even further. So I could give them some maybe arm protections or more necklaces or some skulls or more personalized items, because I think it will help to push the narration a little bit further. And in here, also I sent this painting to a friend of mine, Jakub Fajtanowski, for the critique, as I pretty much always do, and he suggested to me the arm in the background, like the one doing this type of thing, looked kinda odd, and I was kinda hesitating to change it, but usually he really knows better, and I decided, yeah, it looks better. And also this grip type of this grip looking like this looked kinda cool. So the demon in the back is not like climbing on them, but it's like holding on the demons and just trying to be close to them and just jump on them. So it kinda even fits a little bit more to the whole painting. And there is no this awkward like type of shape on top with this gap between like the body and the elbow, when the whole silhouette flows a little bit nicer. And that's pretty much all. If you have any questions or anything, just ask in the comments. If you like the video, just press like, share it, subscribe it, whatever. If you have any suggestions for the future videos, type down everything in the comments. And I already have some videos planned based on the suggestions from the videos, so some things will be a little bit more technical in the future, but yeah, if you have anything to say, it will be great to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the everything, and this is the final, so goodbye.